Hello good people, and welcome along to another edition of the Rebel White Ball. And look, I suppose as we're moving towards the festive seasons, things are changing a little bit in terms of what sports are the dominant sports if you wish, but Gaelic games are still very much on the horizon. We're down now to the last of the two county finals. That's 15 adult finals that have been played in Cork since the commencement of the year. And as I say, down to the last two on Saturday, it's the TRWB Hurling decider. That game goes on in Porkyrin at 3 o'clock now. It's, at one side, it's an unusual pairing. It's St. Finbarr's fourth team versus Ballyha's second team. And look, I mean, maybe obviously there's not a huge amount of interest in this, but for the teams and the players to take part in it. And I'm actually delighted with this competition because, I mean, if you were to whatever team you run in a club, you know, you deserve to have the same opportunities, if you wish, as other players that play, we'll say, in the higher team. But the big game in the county championship is Sunday, and that's at 3 o'clock in Porkykeevan, the junior hurling final. And again, that novel pairing between Kilshannig appearing in their first county final in hurling, that is, and not alone that, prior to this year they haven't won the North Cork. They did that, and an incredible sequence of victories, if you like, since then, when they overcame Drumtara first of all, and then last weekend were impressive winners over Ballygiblin, and they will play Erin's Own's second team. You know, they defeated Nemo Rangers when they won the East Cork, and then they defeated Ballinora last year. And as far as I know, even though that Erin's Own have won the Senior Hurling Championship on 3 occasions, 1992, 2006 and 2007, and prior to that they had 2 intermediate wins, I don't think they've ever actually won the Junior Hurling Championship. Now obviously this is with their second team, and you know, I think I said that to you last week, that they will fancy their chances because the team that they have on this occasion is kind of made up of a mixture of some of the older players. Some players have come back, and obviously some young players. You know, you have players like Patrick Fitzgerald, Ian O'Mahony, Shane Murphy. These are outstanding operators. Mark Collins, Andrew O'Sullivan then, and Jack Sheehan. On the other side of the coin, for Kilshannig, this, no matter what happens Sunday, this has been an incredible year for them. They're already the intermediate A football champions. There's 10 of them at least will line out with the hurlers, so it's very much a dual effort in, you know, for a club that's doing great work there in North Cork, and you know, they have really good facilities, as well as they're doing it well on and off the pitch. The Heinlein brothers obviously are big players to them, but like, not only that, you have Paddy Walsh, Jack Toomey, Owen O'Sullivan, Kieran Toomey and Brian Gearan. So regardless of who wins it, well, obviously for the team that does win, it's going to be incredible. But if the statistic that Erin's Own have never won this, so that's a huge driving point for them. Junior winners, I don't know what it is. I think it's a special occasion, and of course as well, it must be said that whoever wins this championship will be promoted to the Premier Junior next year, and that is the real prize, if you like, that's an offer. Then after that, we're moving to the provincial championships, and in Munster this weekend, it's club hurling semi-finals, and thankfully we've 3 Cork teams involved in the senior, intermediate and junior. And first of all, I suppose, to talk about the seniors, Cork's club's performance in this since 2009, when Newtown Shandrum won it. They beat Ballygiblin on that occasion, has been pretty abysmal, which probably reflects, you know, the state of hurling at Intercounty in Cork. They've, in that time, only Glen Rovers in 2016 got to a Munster final, and they were beaten on that occasion by the team that's going to be playing the Bars on Sunday, and that's Ballygiblin. So obviously, I'm not saying that you know, the performance of club teams are completely reflective of what's happening. You saw last year with Kilcoo winning the All-Ireland club football, and then Down not performing that well, even though that there was issues between those Kilcoo players, I think, and the Down setup at the time. But anyway, it would be absolutely fabulous, Philip, for Cork hurling if St. Finbarr could win it. But they're up against a side that won the Clare Championship a couple of weeks ago against the head as they did last year. This is their 4th time becoming Clare champions, and when they won it the first time back in 2016 and went on to beat Glen Rovers, I think that was the only win that they've had at Munster level, and they were beaten afterwards in the All-Ireland final. But they're obviously, and they're a bit unusual in that club, wherever they're situated in Clare. A lot of players that play with them are also playing football, not with Ballygiblin, but with other clubs around the place. Gary Brennan is one player that springs to mind. But when you think of the players they have, like obviously the big player is Tony Kelly, and most players can be marked out with on a given day, and the Bears will be hoping to do a job in terms of marking him. But it's nearly impossible. Niall Deasy is another player that really steps up to the plate. Paul Flanagan, whatever Bears forward will be in his company for the hour. And tis on, by the way, and QC Parkin is going to know that he was in the company of a good player, and then you have Aaron Griffin as well. But this Bears team, which won the county championship the first time, was in 29 years, is made up a serious mixture of youth and experience, with the emphasis on youth more than anything else. You have the 3 Callan brothers that are big players in this team. Damien plays centre back. Conor Callan, who was probably nearly club player of the year in Cork, and then Jack Callan, who operates in the corner. But Jamie Burns is one of those experienced fellas. But then players like Ben Cunningham, Brian Hayes, Ben O'Connor, Ethan Toomey. So you'd be hoping like that. Obviously the Bears will win, and of course when they don't win, then a Cork team, there's always question marks. Then are they playing a different type, more physical hurling in the other counties? Being in the match being in Innis is a huge boost to the Clare champions. They play the county final. They're so used to that venue, and whatever it is about Cork teams, that's one venue that they certainly don't like to go to. So I need the best of luck to the Bears there. It would be great if they could win that one. The other game then, in that championship at the very same time in Gaelic grounds in Limerick, you have the big battle between Ballygunner and Na Piarsaigh of Limerick, and some people would see this as being the stronger of the 2 semi-finals, to put it like that. Ballygunner All-Ireland champions, Na Piarsaigh an incredible side as well. So there will be a big crowd at that one from I would imagine from all over Limerick in particular. The Ballygunner team, they don't have a huge following, but I'd still expect a big crowd there on that one. Anyway, moving on to the Intermediate Championship, and arise in Inniscarra and take your place among, the nations of Europe for a start. When you think of where Inniscarra have come from, and here they are in a Munster semi-final, this has been an incredible story. I suppose it probably started, all GAA stories have many starting points. It was probably somebody putting a hurley, taking somebody down to training maybe 20-30 years ago. But this time last year, normally it is 3 wise men, but 4 men came from the city out, bearing arms and offered their help, and they took over the whole coaching setup. Paul McCarthy from St. Finbarr, Mark Prendergast, the Na Piarsaigh man, Gordon Ahern, I think, is from Loch Rovers, and Kinsaid Ledgers from Douglas. And it was a big step up for the club. What do we do here? Normally I guarantee you, if you talk to any club now, they're searching good or trying to get inside coaches, outside coaches from anywhere at times. But here they were presented with the entire packet. They took it, and look where they got them. Now they had, as some of them will point out to, they had a little bit of luck and all that along the way. But luck and a point here and a point there is probably what separates you having a good year and a bad year. Brian O'Mahony and Liam Ryan are outstanding defenders to them. Shane O'Mahony as well. Of course, Colin Casey, his place in folklore is forever established after that late goal in the replay in whatever minute of injury time against Castlemartyr, the goal in the semi-final against Ballinhassig. Sean O'Donoghue, recently appointed Cork captain, has been the fulcrum of so many of their attacks. For Glory O'Leary at wing forward, outstanding player as well. Owen McCarthy in the corner, and then you have players like Paudie Holland and Kieran Rice. So how will they get on against Roscrea? Well, there was a time when Roscrea were the best team in Tipperary. They won 6 Tipperary Senior Hurling Championships. The last in 1980. They actually won an All-Ireland, would you believe, back in 1976. But since then, maybe for their fortunes have dropped, and in 2021 they were relegated down to intermediate, but they bounced back, won the county championship this year, had a big win over Ballygiblin in the Munster championship, and here they are, and they are a good side, and it would take a huge effort from Inniscarra, I would think, to beat them. The fact that there's on as well in Simple Stadium is going to be an advantage surely to Roscrea. Their full forward line of Conor Sheehy, Sean Conlon and Shane Fletcher have been devastating in the campaign so far. Alan Tynan is their one player that's on the Cork panel. Inniscarra obviously have a player, or on the Tipperary panel I should say, and then you've Sean O'Donoghue on the Cork panel. You've Luke Cashin I should say, Daniel Ryan and Shane Davis. The other semi-final is Monaleen and St. Joseph Dual Bayfield, also on Saturday in Kilmallock. But look, Inniscarra in bonus territory. Their last major win, only win back in 1975, winning the county was sort of what it was about. But do you know, sometimes when you get into the Munster Championship, you're going to different venues and all of that. So it is incredible for them and for their huge support. Again, like the Bears, carry our wishes. Then the junior one on Sunday, the junior semi-final, and that's in Páirc Uí Rinn between the all-conquering Ballygiblin outfit, who they're the champions, and if they were to win it, they would be the first team ever to retain a junior hurling championship, because normally when you'd win a junior hurling championship, you're up at the next grade. But in Cork, because of the restructuring, you know, when they moved up to the Premier Junior, like again we've mentioned these players, like they're getting towards household names at this stage. You know, Larkin Finn, Fionn Hurley and Mark Keane, outstanding defenders. Then you've Ryan Donegan and Dara Flynn, operator road the middle, and of course they've a potent forward line as well, Joseph O'Sullivan, Sean O'Sullivan, Cathal O'Mahony. But I do think that they're going to have too much for the Waterford team. I must confess, I hadn't heard of them until now. Colligan, they won the Junior Hurling Championship in Waterford after an absence of 38 years, beating Ballygunner's third team. It's incredible that Ballygunner, obviously we know what their first team, all conquering, winning the Waterford Championship for the 9th time, was it? Their second team were barely beaten by Ballysaggart in the intermediate championship, and here they are. Gavin Whelan is probably one of their better known players. They have a 39-year-old fella called Johnny Wall who was really good. Colin Dunford is a player that Ballygiblin will be well aware of. He's a Waterford senior hurler. Joe Boot and Ross Brown and others. And in the other semi-final of that championship, that game is on Saturday, is on Saturday in Cusack Park between St. Kieran's of Limerick and the Barron from Clare. So yeah, they're and like scattered throughout Ireland, we're going to have provincial club building up the finals, which will be played before Christmas, and then shortly after, I think, the All Ireland finals. I'm not too sure when the dates of those, but these and like there was a time when we didn't even know anything about who was winning county championships in other counties. It didn't matter to us, but because so much publicity now, and the great thing about it is that these club championships are as important as anything else, as I would say nearly as important as inter-county. The news we heard yesterday was that Michael Murphy, one of the greatest footballers of all time, gone down to Rugby, has decided to hang up his boot and football gloves. The Donegal man, who I think had 13 years playing senior football, captain since 2011. Imagine 10 years captaining your county. He was an All-Star on 3 occasions, I think, young footballer of the year once, and he was one of the best I've ever seen playing. And you know, now he's decided to step back, and do they say that time waits for no man? So yeah, he was incredible and an absolute joy to watch. First time I saw him, actually, he was playing for Donegal, obviously, in an All-Ireland under-21 final, and I think he took a penalty in the last minute and it blazed off the crossbar, and like it was a devastating loss. But great players don't let things like that define them, and it certainly didn't define him. It was a joy to watch him playing, and so many times for his beloved Donegal. Couple of other matches that you might be interested in from a GAA point of view. The Leinster Club football is on this weekend. The semi-finals are on Saturday, and the first one you have the Downs and Westmeath playing Rathdowt from Meath. That would be kind of the lesser of the semi-finals. The big one is the one after between Portarlington and Kilmacud Crokes. And here, of course, Kilmacud Crokes are the team that are, fancied by everybody to go all the way in this. So that's one we're keeping an eye on. Moving to soccer, and of course, the Premier League has been suspended until after the World Cup. The next time you'll be watching it is on Boxing Day, as they call it, St. Stephen's Day here. And the setup on top of the league is that, they say it is Arsenal's to lose. My God, if you're an Arsenal fan, you wouldn't hear that. And of course, Cristiano Ronaldo was the player that was in the news for all the wrong reasons. How he ended up giving an interview to that fella, I don't know. But anyway, that's another story. Probably on his way out of Man United. There's so many WhatsApp messages going about him. He's in the Dublin gear in one of them anyway. But anyway, this World Cup is starting, and of course, it's a World Cup that's dogged by controversy, even though some would argue that there has been World Cups in the past that the background was fairly shaky. But in this one, as you know, it was awarded in 2010 to Qatar, and it's a country that was totally unsuited, as I said before. No infrastructure, had to be, all the stadiums and everything had to be built, and 6,500 people they reckon have died, migrant workers, horrendous stuff. And Sepp Blatter was, he was the guy in FIFA. We won't go into it, but somebody pointed out to me that back in 2010 that the French Prime Minister at the time, Nicolas Sarkozy, hauled in Michel Platini. He was an outstanding French player who had gone into administration, and that Sarkozy told him, listen, get the French votes, we need them. And as a result, Qatar got it. I'm not saying this is fact, but after that, there was a huge amount of these guys in Qatar, like they don't travel around in Pony Unos or Peugeot 206s. A lot of them have their own planes, and commercial and military planes. There's a huge shot of them were made in France after they bought Paris Saint-Germain, these crowds, and seemingly huge sponsorship for the Pied de l'Arc de Triomphe, that massive horse racing, race meeting in France. But anyway, look, it's on. It starts this Sunday at 4 o'clock, and we'll be all supporting Ecuador on this occasion. There's going to be, it's a majorly disappointing. In the past, when it was played during the summer, the build-up to it was massive. There were stories coming out of training camps of things going right, things not going right. Where would Saipan would never have happened if this was around. So there's no build-up whatsoever to it. And of course, I think there's about 4 matches a day. Trying to get this thing played from the 20th of November to the 20th of December, I think, is the final. Not sure about that. And of course, after a while now, we're going to be jumping on the England bandwagon as to hoping, that they don't progress. Geez, our lives are simple. But anyway, rugby, and we're into the autumn internationals, and what an incredible time it's been for Ireland rugby. The Irish rugby, as they attempt to win their 12th match, I think, on the Aviva on the trot. And we're taking on Australia. This is kind of the last day of these autumn tours from the autumn series from an Ireland point of view, and the big game is Ireland and Australia at 8 o'clock on Saturday evening. For I was going to say for fellas, for sports fans that are into rugby, there's a huge excuse to not do a tap of work on Saturday. At 1 o'clock, there's going to be a pair of games on, Italy versus South Africa. I mean, you can justify watching that. These are teams that are going to be in opposition to Ireland. Also at the same time, Wales taking on Georgia. How Wales have dropped off the radar. 3:15, you've Scotland and Argentina. 5:30, the big one. The other big one, England and New Zealand, of course, then the Ireland game. We obviously have spoken to you about this before, about the position of old half and the Irish team, and Johnny Sexton, who probably the team will be named later on this morning. Johnny Sexton, who is the man in this position, but who's the understudy. Well, it looks very like an opportunity presents for Jack Crowley. He came on against Fiji, and I couldn't believe it. He's 22 years of age, And I said the first thing he did when he came in was nearly talk to the team. This guy appears to be a born leader. I shouldn't say this guy, he's a really pleasant young man. And he kicked the 2 conversion. I expect him to start. Ross Byrne has been asked to join the setup as well. So that would indicate maybe that Johnny Sexton won't be starting. Kieran Frawley was another player that was, I suppose being primed for the number 10 jersey. He's got injured, will be out for a while. And then Ben Healy, there was a loss for him, even though he was absolutely superb this night week, was it against for Munster. But at the moment, the story is about Jack Crowley, and we wish him continued success. Obviously, he being a parishioner, makes it a lot more interesting for us. But anyway, it's, as I said, Ireland Rugby absolutely flying. Then we come to golf, and this weekend is the last of the final event of the DP World Tour. It concludes in Dubai, and there's seemingly the odds on Rory McIlroy finishing top of this are fairly short. But the big story in golf is the story of John Murphy from Kinsale. We've spoken about this guy so often. He played in the Challenge Tour. He didn't make it in the top 20. When I say he didn't make it, if he got into the top 20, he'd have got the tour card for the DP World Tour, which is the all-European tour for those who have a certain vintage. Well, for the last 6 days up to yesterday, he'd played 3 rounds of golf in a qualifying school in Spain. And after 5 rounds, honestly, I thought he was gone. He'd finished in the top 25 and seemingly had about a 10% chance of getting there. But incredibly, he shot a closing round of 65 and he got in 23rd position. It's an absolutely wonderful story. I suppose, look, Gary Hurley from Waterford also got in there, but like to have a West Cork man. There aren't too many Corkmen. John McHenry was one that have qualified for the World Tour. Now, maybe there were others in the past, but for John, it's such a quick rise, if you like. And this doesn't mean that he'll be sending out to France for playing any day soon. But it means he gets an opportunity now to play in this. And as far as I know, this European Tour, the DP World Tour, it starts in South Africa in 2 weeks' time, and there'll be a couple of events out there. He probably won't get invited to them all, but anyhow, for the moment, let's bask on what has been a great occasion for him, for his family, parents Owen Carmel, his sister Faye, his coach Ian Stafford, and his caddy and classmate from school, schoolmate, Shane O'Driscoll. Has been, oh my God, what an incredible story for them. As you know, like there is a producer associated with this production who, for probably, I don't know, taxation reasons and wishing to remain anonymous, his name is not associated with it, but he's an absolutely incredible fan of golf. And he actually met John Murphy at a recent gathering in the old head of Kinsale, and he pointed out to John Murphy that since the Rebel White Ball, I can't believe that I'm repeating this rubbish, that since the Rebel White Ball started mentioning the West Waterford player Seamus Power, who was about 450th in the world, is now nearly in the top 20 or 30, that made the difference. But anyway, according to this guy, his discussion with John Murphy a couple of weeks ago was the final strawberry in the cream that got John over the line. So yeah, it's as I said, it's a great story, and we're absolutely delighted for him, delighted for all sports people. Obviously, these are the guys that work in the professional setup. We started off talking about the GAA guys. And my God, our admiration for them is absolutely incredible. So the best of luck to every team that's involved, the best of luck to all our sports people, and until the next time, take care.